Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if you're here for the first time, thanks very much for watching. Here at Ethical Finance, we try and come up with ethical solutions to rather complex financial problems and entrepreneurial discussions that we have. I try and give you my advice from the 20 years of experience that I've had in being an entrepreneur and having many different businesses. And welcome. If this is your first time, thanks for watching. Today we're talking about education, how important it really is, how we're going to define it for this purpose. What we're going to say right now is that you have your formal education in terms of definition, which includes your schooling, so first level schooling, which is your junior school, then you get your second level schooling, which is your high school, and then your tertiary education, which is college or university. How important are these things in terms of what you are wanting to do in your life? Completely depends on exactly that, what you are going to do in your life. Being an entrepreneur, one, is very difficult, and two, involves certainly not only or not at all in some instances a college degree or university degree. So education, in my opinion, takes many forms. You get your formal education, which is your schooling, and your tertiary education, which is your university or your college degree. And then from there you have your practical knowledge on how to actually own and operate a business or work a 9-to-5 job. There you're gaining experience in many different facets. Now that's where another section of education comes in, which is your emotional education. Emotional education, far too often overlooked. The way that you react to a certain stimulus in business right now at the age of 20 will be different from how you're going to react to it when you're 40. How your personal circumstances change over this period, whether you've started a family, whether you have other dependents going on, all sort of adds to the fact that you are going to learn continuously throughout your life. And this practical experience, to me, has proved to be the most important form of experience that I can have, far surpassing the formal education as in schooling and university that I've had throughout my life. So, knowing now what I learned when I was a child, I didn't realize I was learning it, but I was learning a lot of entrepreneurial skills from my father at the time, who was a car salesman. Owned his own car business, second-hand car business for a while, then got into the first-hand car business and owned a few Toyota franchises in our hometown. And what I learned from him is, number one, of course, hard work, resilience, communication skills, honesty, and then from all those things came the trust that his customers had in him. Which is wonderful to have in the car business, because every 4 years or so someone wants to renew their vehicle. So every 4 years he was guaranteed or semi-guaranteed a certain amount of new business. In my early 20s, I've only ever worked for 2 people in my life, and I knew on my second job that was going to be the last time I ever really wanted to take orders from another person. I loved restaurants. I loved the idea of restaurants. I loved the idea of working in restaurants. I started off as a waiter, I was kind of shoved into that position, but then very fast realized that I wanted to learn more, I wanted to do more in that industry. So I pushed for management of that little bistro that I had, that I was working in, and got that, and very quickly turned into an indispensable employee, which, as an entrepreneur, by the way, please be very careful of. If an employee is indispensable, that means that you have given over far too much power to that employee, which is a double-edged sword. I learned as many aspects of that business that I possibly could, from stock ordering to customer liaison to payrolls, everything that I could in the correct managing of a bistro. Not too long after that, about a year into that post, another bistro across the road became available on the market to purchase at what I thought was a very good price. I went straight to my boss, offered him a partnership, which he ummed and ahed about, and finally declined. So I had to say my goodbyes. Now, because I had been indispensable and because I had become the face of the business, I managed to take a vast majority of his clients away from him into my new bistro, which wasn't very far away. and became an immense success, even though there were some issues that I had along the way and a very steep learning curve. Now, that business, which I owned for exactly to the day 1 year, which I sold for a wonderful profit as my first business, stood me in good stead to learn from those mistakes and not repeat them in my next restaurant, which I bought not so long after that. So all this is to say that the education that I received in my 3 years of university, which I never finished, paled in comparison to the amount of experience that I had and learnt in the education of actually working in that career. Now, that is not to say that that happens all the time. Different career choices need different kinds of experience. So if you're going into the computer industry, for instance, you need to understand a certain level of coding. And in which case you have to either go to a coding boot camp or you do a computer degree at university or college. So that stands you in exactly the right sort of momentum to move on into the field that you've chosen. However, the things that I did learn in university, which stood me in perfect stead for what I was doing in entrepreneurial skills and will never change for whatever business you get into, are accounts, understanding basic accounting principles, and 2, basic transaction law. Accounting principles, you have to be able to understand profit and loss sheets, cash flow statements, income statements, balance sheets. You have to be able to know what your accountant is talking about when he's talking to you. I personally suggest that you do your own accounts, your own set of management accounts every day, in no matter what business you're in. And at least, if not every day, then at least once a month, so that when you hand over your accounts to your accountant, they are in a semi sort of organized fashion, and that enables you to know exactly where your business is at any given moment. Now, basic transaction law is another aspect of any business that you need to get to grips with. You don't actually realize how useful it is until you start signing over your life in terms of contracts. You've got rental agreements, purchase agreements, sale agreements, supplier agreements, employee agreements. The list is endless, and they can be fraught with legal jargon, which you need to get to grips with. You need to have some sort of understanding of it. If you don't have that form of understanding, either get a book and start learning of the sort of up-to-date transaction law, business transaction law. You don't have to have a major understanding of it. You just have to know what you're signing. And that is the rule of thumb. Never, ever, ever sign anything that you do not have a full understanding of. So that again begs the question of, do you need a university degree to have those subjects under your belt? Well, of course not. Some late fees at the library can supply you with decent enough information to keep you going. And just like any other mathematical thing, accounts is all about practice. So the more income statements that you look at, the easier they are to read and see between the lines, especially. And that'll come into further discussions on how you evaluate stocks and companies, and seeing where you want to go in terms of value investing. So wrapping this all up, how important is education? Well, it completely depends on what kind of career choice you're going to be making. At this channel here, I know it's about entrepreneurship and financial sort of planning and ethical finances, but I just want to take a moment here to discuss the plight of the 9-to-5 worker. First of all, by saying there's a plight of a 9-to-5 worker is absolutely derogatory and completely insane. Anybody who tells you that working a 9-to-5 job is a terrible thing to do and you're stuck in prison and is not worth your time and effort is talking absolute junk. Don't listen to them. There are a number of people online at the moment selling scams, forex scams, stock scams, all those things. There's nothing wrong with a 9-to-5 job. And I can tell you right now that any entrepreneur who doesn't work 9-to-5 and beyond is generally not an entrepreneur for very long. So never ever be derogatory towards a person who has a 9-to-5 job. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody, thank goodness, otherwise we would never have any employees, would we? So you will never hear me be derogatory towards them. I think, and like I said at the beginning of this video, there have been so many times in my life that I've gone, oh man, a 9-to-5 job would be really nice, stability, perfect for family life. What a wonderful thing to have, and have never actually gotten around to having that. So Having said all that, how important is education in terms of your entrepreneurial career? Again, it all depends on which career you're going into. If you're going into something that needs more technical skills like computers, app creation, web design, those kinds of things, you need to understand exactly what you're doing. And it's always a good idea, no matter who you're hiring, whether they are the knowledge behind your entrepreneurial idea, doesn't matter, you still need to have a basic understanding of what's going on. So therefore, maybe a college degree would be very good. Where I would say a college degree is not necessary is where it's setting you directly onto a back foot. So if it's costing you too much money and you are starting off in enormous amounts of debt, and you are not 100% certain on following a career path in something that you are studying at university, please don't continue. That is an absolute either waste of your parents' money or putting you into a large amount of debt and really starting you off on the back foot. So just remember, accounts and business transaction law are two musts that you must have under your belt. Have a decent understanding of those and you are starting off on the right foot. Anyway, see you next time. Thanks very much. Ciao.